The good news is, this is chapter 3, and we're going to talk about the Jubilee today. I just glanced through it and figured that out. And we've talked about the Jubilee.
I was going to say, we talked about that last
Might
week.
be knowledgeable. Yeah. We've talked about it several times. So anybody who's got your books, turn to page 63, because I'm going to be reading the Deuteronomy. I'm going to be, anybody who wants to read along, it's Deuteronomy 15, 1 through 11. So take out your books and let's read this scripture, and then we'll ask questions later. I'm going to read it out loud unless somebody else wants to.
That's okay.
I'll do it. Okay. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel any loan they have made to a fellow Israelite. They shall not require payment from anyone among their own people, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. However, there need be no poor people among you. For in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, he will richly bless you, if only you fully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all these commands I am giving you today. If anyone is poor among your fellow Israelites, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward them. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend them whatever they need. Do not show ill will toward the needy among your fellow Israelites and give them nothing. They may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and needy in your land. Okay, so there we are again with that sentence that Jesus said also, the poor you will always have with you. And so our author is asking us, let me ask first of all, when you guys read that scripture, when you guys hear that scripture, what is it that you think about in terms of, here we are in, Prairie Village, Kansas, 2025. What is it that it means to you today?
Well, it's almost a foreign concept to us in today's economy. We have some forms of debt forgiveness, but we are such a debt-driven economy. We're racking up a lot of credit and buying things with credit and getting into credit card or debts, and companies are not very.
Yeah, debt forgiveness is not top of the list for most companies. That's true.
Well, really, if you knew in 7 years it was going to be all paid off anyway, would you work real hard to pay it off? I have a little trouble with this.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I mean,
And you rack up more debt just because you know that it could be forgiven at some point.
Yeah.
But if you're
I've
always-
always had trouble with this.
yeah.
But if you're always on a treadmill of never catching up, there's never an opportunity to get ahead.
Let's look at it in terms of in Deuteronomy, they're talking to the Israelites. And so let's presume then that this law, this Jubilee law, applies to family members. Okay. So if we look at our family, and our family member goes into debt, that to me is the harder question, because we are loyal to our family members. And as a family member, if I'm in debt, I don't want to ask for money because I don't want to burden my family. But then I also think that anybody in my family would give me money if I asked it. And they say, you give it back, that's okay. If you don't give it back, that's okay. That's the family unit response to the Jubilee, as I see it.
You know, but if you have a family member who is always in debt because they don't know how to
Well, and
live within their means.
honestly, I think that's what
When,
our author is talking about.
yeah,
We, in order to get people out of poverty, it's not gonna be just giving them $100 every once in a while. It's gonna be teaching them budgeting and teaching them. So I don't think I think what, I call her Dr. Liz, what Dr. Liz is trying to tell us is that charity isn't enough. Going and giving people food and money and everything that we do, that's not teaching them. They're still in that world.
but I think there's a difference between those who are truly in need and those who
Those
just,
people are truly in need.
well,
Just because, let me just say this very clearly. I think that people who don't know how to budget, who go outside of their means, there's something else going on in
yes,
their
but
lives.
what if they refuse to learn?
Well, then it's just like what we've said before. You can only do so much, and then you have to walk away so it doesn't hurt yourself. I do get that,
Okay,
but I don't like us judging the poor. I don't
No.
like us deciding this person might get better and this person might not get better. So
no,
gonna
I'm
choose that
talking
way.
about someone who's not necessarily poor, but
Yeah, I know, I get it. I mean, it's one of those things where, if it becomes a burden on you, then that becomes a real issue. But the only way, I mean, I agree with what Eloise and Ryan are talking about. The only way I can make sense of the Jubilee is to put it in a family commitment. Because it doesn't work, like you said, Eloise, it doesn't work for people, we ask all of society to forgive the poor, and people take advantage. That's just, quite frankly, who we are. That's who America is.
I
Well,
think.
okay, I have a question.
Okay. Let
No,
Joyce
no,
talk.
let Dennis.
Okay, let Dennis talk first. Okay.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, I see a couple things that could be done as far as the 7 years. You would be careful how much you loaned.
True.
And second, you would still have legal means for those 7 years to enforce the loan. And another purpose that I would see for this scripture would be that periodically the land that they inherited when they first inhabited Canaan returns, so you don't have this growing inequity.
That's what I was wondering too, is if
Mhm.
they say that the poor are always among you, but then I think the population isn't quite like what we're dealing with today. So it is hard to put it in context of our society and our year,
Mhm.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Well, if everything worked like people working at issues with integrity, that would work for me.
Yeah.
But social issues, there's problems at all the way down the line.
Yes.
So if the top is gonna be greedy and unforgiving and all of these things, that trickles down as well as any help trickles down.
yeah,
So
That's
it's
true.
just multi,
Yeah, we have a
layers of
society of the
issues.
rich getting richer.
yeah.
It makes a lot of people feel like they're on the treadmill, middle class these days doesn't feel like middle class anymore.
No.
When the kids are paying $1,700 for an apartment, and 20 years ago, I paid $300 a month, It's like, something's going wrong with our economy, So I do think that it's very, very hard sitting here in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, to figure out how we deal with this.
If you think about the tenant farmers back in the after the Reconstruction,
Mhm.
they worked every year planted their crops every year, they went further in debt.
Yeah,
Wasn't because they didn't work.
right.
The system was stacked against them.
Yeah.
The way it was set up.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking as you said that, the miners who had to shop at the miners store and live in their community.
My grandparents did that.
Plantation
Yeah.
workers in Hawaii.
Yeah,
The company stores and everything was.
yeah,
I was gonna say, you're putting in family context. I was kind of curious how many Israelites left Egypt. And I thought, well, if it's a small group, it equates to a family. But good old Google says there are about 2 million. So that's not a small family.
no,
And the other reaction I have is, if we're really gonna eliminate poverty, we have to change the system.
Yeah.
And we have a democratic capitalist system. And that doesn't really serve everyone.
no, and bigger corporations are, they don't pay necessarily fair wages, especially to the lowest employees who maybe clean the bathrooms and
Yeah.
maybe those who own the corporations should be forced to live like them for 3 months and try to live on those wages. Maybe. Or does that mean?
Every once in a while you hear about an employer who will basically share the wealth, profit sharing with the employees. There was a time when the disparity between the average worker and the corporate head was much closer than what is.
Wasn't Hy-Vee set up like that?
I was just,
It's
yeah,
employee owned.
it was employee owned.
And I saw on Facebook this morning that, because we're having trouble with, getting some food to the poor right now the way our world is. Hy-Vee has put out a notice in this community that all children in November can get a meal for free.
Yeah, between certain hours. Yeah.
And then even if you're not a child, the meal is $3.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that's pretty darn good in our economy, isn't it?
And the
You know?
hours, by the way, are dinner hours. I mean, it's
4 to 7.
after
4 to 7.
Yeah.
Okay. I posted on Facebook, so send it to whoever you can, because
Yeah.
I don't know who needs it, but my goodness, that's.
And grocery
amazing.
stores will be hurting right now too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because people
Yeah.
aren't
I've
spending.
always
They
been
can't
impressed
afford it.
with Hy-Vee's structure, so it is possible. you know?
at least one of them was a church member.
Our church.
The stuff,
Oh, the-
the original
Yes, they did.
developer was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My,
From Iowa, he was
Uh,
from Iowa.
Yeah.
well, Lamoni,
The Western.
Was it Western?
Well,
Was
the
it-
original The store original. was near Lamont.
yeah,
Well, I remember at Graceland talking about that, but,
my mother
Tiny,
knew,
tiny little store.
I think Breedenburg,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I London, Edinburgh.
yeah,
Cause there was a high and a V.
yeah,
Yeah.
Breedenburg was
I
the
see
B.
that. I go to Hy-Vee. That's somebody named, his first letters are HY and then the other guy is B.
Well, it's BR, but I think they
VR,
just
right,
changed
yeah,
it
they did V. I
to
know.
Breedenburg.
Yeah, if you go into Hy-Vee, they actually have it posted. They have their picture.
Yeah.
at the beginning of it.
And there are companies like Ben and Jerry's, or at least, I don't know what it still is, but they made it so that the highest paid people, including them, made no more than 5 times more than the lowest paid.
Wow.
And then, of course, there are the CEOs that make $100 million a year.
I know,
Yeah.
I know. I like to talk about the rarer ones. And I will admit, you guys, I know that insurance companies are the devil and all that, but I've worked for them my entire career.
Mhm.
And when I worked for American Family, we would put whatever money you put into the 401k at American Family. There were years, if they had a good year, they would quadruple our donation for us and put that into our 401k.
I worked,
So I was pretty impressed.
I worked for Kansas City Life and they had bonuses
Yeah.
at Christmas. And if they had a good year, you might get a double bonus. And the longer you work there, the bigger your bonus became.
So some try, we can say that. Some of the corporations try it. And we see all the negative on the news, and then there's Ewing Cough.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
What a nice diamond.
Well, I'm gonna make two comments if I would, if I could. One is, that I think when bureaucracies get to a certain size, the human element just kind of flips away,
Yeah.
and it's really easy to, you may be a kind-hearted person, but you're working for a system that is very uncaring about, you know, the average worker, and these disparities, you know, accumulate, and it's just, it takes on a life of its own. But and I'm not too happy with Hy-Vee, other than what you said just now, Jane. I did not know they were doing that. For
You're not, what are you not happy with Hy-Vee? What do they do?
oh, they just become very corporate.
Oh, well.
You're getting away
They
from
moved away
press.
from Lamoni,
Yeah.
Yeah,
They what?
when they moved away from Lamoni.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
it's
anyway,
so funny to go to the Lamoni store. It is the most packed grocery store.
Never been.
It is tiny.
kind of look, yeah, it's small. But my other comment was going back to the scripture, the Deuteronomy, that happened after the Exodus, right? The events recorded in Deuteronomy.
Yes.
So the Israelites had been in slavery for all those generations, and then the captives were released. And so I think every time, you know, they have the year of Jubilee and the horn is blown and it's announced, you know, the debtors can go free. It's kind of, it harkens back to the Exodus, right? In a way.
Okay.
So they were in slavery under Pharaoh, and then you can talk about financial slavery.
Yeah, it feels like a reset. Jubilee, kind of feels like that reset, which would be kind of nice, wouldn't it? To everybody gets a reset, you know?
I think anytime you give somebody something for free, not really value.
Well,
I've always felt like to understand this scripture totally, you had to live in that time. It's just
Okay.
very hard.
Here's a question. Here's a question, Ellen. You're one of the few that remember the 50s well. There's a few. My understanding of the 1950s is that our tax laws were around 50% for everybody. And we had a lot of social programs. The whole FDR came out, you know, so, you know, I know that socialism is a bad word in this world now, but economically, our country in the 50s was more leaning towards that socialism model than what we do now. Do you have a memory of the 50s that
Jane,
makes us?
We were so poor in the 50s, it wasn't a problem for taxes. That's all I can
Yeah. Look at
I
everybody.
don't remember taxes being an issue at all
Yeah.
in the 50s.
Yeah. I've just been studying the history of it a little bit.
Jane?
Go ahead, Dennis.
Well, back in the 50s, they had a progressive tax system. It wasn't everybody paid
Yeah.
the same level.
Okay.
It was pretty high for the
Was-
highest income earners, but
Yeah, for the highest income earners, it was 50% then, right? It went up as they earned more.
Like 9%.
it may have been higher than that.
Oh, my, okay. I just, it's fuzzy, but my memory is from the history of it is that it wasn't, there wasn't a big complaint about it from what I understand. I mean, obviously there were still poor and we had to
Well,
figure
we
out
were
how to,
so young,
yeah.
we were just we just got married in the 50s.
And the reason why I ask is because, you know, those of us who have been overseas, I lived in Germany for a year in the 80s, and they had a tax structure that was very, very high. And I remember even as a kid, you know, I'm 20 years old, I haven't really paid that much taxes yet. But there were these people that were in their 30s starting college, and I'm like, isn't it horrible to wait so long? And they said to me, Jane, I waited because the government is paying for my education and it's worth it to wait. They're all patient with each other, you know? And it was just a very foreign concept to me at the time. But now when I'm thinking about it, it's like, okay, when you have a system that pays for everybody, let's say education, you know, let's just say the government pays for education. That actually might be an incentive for people. You know, I'm telling you, it was in Germany. This lady in her 30s wanted to be a doctor, and she just worked until it was her turn to go to school, and then she was excited to go get her doctorate degree. You know, it's like, all right, it is foreign to us, and I realize America probably isn't going to do that, but I just don't know why that has to be evil. You know, because the Jubilee is about evening things out, as I understand it.
I think it's also very easy. I don't know if it's more so in America than anywhere else, but people can hide behind corporations. And it was like that in the Depression. There was no one,
Yes.
it was always, it's the man. So there was
Yeah.
no
Yes.
one accountable.
Yeah,
And
The bankers.
they were,
Yeah.
yeah,
And so
They
it's
were
kind of
destroying
like that
crops
with
and-
corporations. There's no individual accountability or responsibility.
yeah.
And it makes it really hard
And
for,
we sitting in this room don't have any real power, you know, to change that. That's what's frustrating. With, you know, the poor will always be with us because, you know, it's really, really hard to change a system. All right, I'm going to go to page 72. I found an interesting quote. It's talking about whether or not the elimination of poverty happened in the ancient Near East. It does seem that during the Second Temple period, there were attempts to redistribute land and wealth among Jews following the commandments. Indeed, the introduction of the Pro Rule should be evidence that there was a debate about the institution of debt release and Shemitah. And then this guy, Herzog, writes, when the rabbis discovered that the rich refused to make loans to peasants in the year leading up to the sabbatical year, about what we're talking about,
Mhm.
they introduced the Prose Rule, an oath taken by the debtor, vowing that he would repay the loan whenever the lender stipulated, sabbatical or no sabbatical, just as Sabbath provided a physical respite from the endless toil of life, so the sabbatical provided debt relief from the endless cycle of poverty and misery. But it appears that both were undermined and eventually abrogated by the ruling class.
Mhm.
So it's interesting, isn't it, that this struggle has been around for centuries, you know? That's probably why we have the scriptures, the poor will always be with us, you know? Because we as human beings don't really know how to redistribute, you know, we don't know how. I do find it fascinating that Joseph Smith tried it, you know, and the early Mormon church was all about the what do we call them, the storage house.
Courthouse.
Yeah. Storehouse. Yeah, storehouses. You know, but that failed also because the rich were not happy about having so many people coming in and sharing their food like that. So unfortunately, I'm not sure we call it greed.
Do
You know,
they still do the storehouse?
no, I don't think so. No, they have a whole different tithing system now. No.
But they do have a plan for help. They have, maybe called the storehouse. I'm not quite sure what all they. Is where they are.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, where's JR running here?
Well, when it comes to tithing, nobody is better, I think, than the LDS.
Yeah.
They
figured
have
that
that,
out.
they are faithful tithers.
Well, and my understanding is if you tie, it's 10% of the income, it's not increased like that. And it's also, you can't get into that celestial realm.
Yeah.
Unless you're a really good tither. I talked to enough Mormons about that, so
You can,
get into the white room.
you can't even get into the
I
temple.
know, I would spill juice on somebody if I went into one. You know. Have you guys been in the temple?
Yes.
The white room freaked me out. It really did. You have to wear white. Everything in the room is white. And you're like, I guess you're floating around like
You're
angels.
talking the Mormon.
Yes, the Mormon temple. I've been in
Haven't been
two
there.
before they dedicated it. And there was one that, I don't think the Nauvoo temple was like that. I don't know if they had it yet.
I don't think that they showed us the like,
Okay. But I went into a
because-
white room.
Elmo was like, that's where that would happen, it was there.
Yeah.
And he got in trouble, he kept getting in trouble during the tour.
Oh, because he's
Because
talking to too much.
Pointing out things. And the tour guides were like, sir, I need you to stop talking. Because he was pointing out all the little secrets.
I like that guy.
And we were like, ooh, okay. And the tour guide's like, shut up, dude. We're telling our secrets.
I think inequality is inevitable, but I don't know that poverty is inevitable. So I think we're always going to have, like, let's say that you got everybody out of subsistence living and everybody's making 6 figures, but some people are billionaires. So we got millionaires and billionaires. Well, you still have an inequality, but everybody's basic needs are met. But as it is, we have some people who are starving in the streets. And maybe on the margins, some of that is inevitable, but we can do much better than we are now.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
I have a question
Okay.
for the class.
All right.
Is it do you think it's the responsibility of the government to pay for the poor, support the poor, or is the role of the church?
Good question.
Well,
I think it could be both.
I think it
Maybe.
should.
Maybe come up with more equitable tax laws.
The Catholic Church did not get the memo on that. Because, the history of the Catholic Church as we have studied it was more about wealth gathering. What was it called when you could get out of sins by paying the church?
Indulgences.
Indulgences. The indulgences kind of got out of hand. From the night. So
But then you have somebody like Dorothy Day, who ran hospitality houses in New York City.
Okay.
And
well, and this lady, look what she's doing. She's sitting down, she's sitting with the poor, for goodness sake. So that's churchy,
I think it's definitely, it needs to be on multiple levels. It's not
Yeah.
one solution. I know with the current situation with the SNAP benefits and all of that having problems, that a lot of social media personalities have gone to social media and said, what can we do to get food to people? What can we do to
that's like
help move it around instead of just depending on the government to fix it?
Yeah.
Because we already know the government's flawed and has major issues. So we have to take that back to ourselves and step up and help.
Yeah.
So it's an individual movement as well as like the individual members of the community can help each other. And that's what a lot of social media personalities are trying to reach out and do. Say, hey, I have this big truck. If somebody can get food, I can transport it to here where it's needed the most. Or
I do think, we're in a testing period. Because, in fact, I read that it was an anonymous billionaire that paid all of the military.
Yeah, $100 million.
Yeah. So that's,
It wasn't anonymous, but it was about
Oh.
$100 million. I don't remember the guys.
oh, it wasn't anonymous? Okay, I thought I read it.
As for,
Yeah.
as far as the storehouses and the LDS,
Mhm.
AI says, yes, the Church of Jesus Christ, has a network of bishop storehouses, which function as grocery stores for members in need. They're stocked with food and other necessities used by local leaders to provide assistance to individuals and families who are experiencing hardship. And they say that the church also operates larger central warehouses and numerous farms, ranches, canneries to produce and store supplies. Now that's AI, so I
Yeah.
won't.
I wonder how many. I have not heard of it. Area. But it could be, it's for their own,
Yeah.
that is what Deuteronomy is talking about
Yeah.
for the Israelites. So if each church did it for their own people, what do you do for the unchurched?
Of course, you have smaller and smaller church attendance,
Yeah.
Yeah,
which then means churches is able to. Cities, I've read the last couple of days that the food pantries in the Kansas City area are pretty much dry.
Marsha told us that. That's why we stepped up and gave a whole bunch. I saw double, triple what we usually do. We're trying, but I just think government, to answer your question, I think government is more equipped to do it, and if I'm willing to pay my taxes for that, and then.
well, and I think we need to go back to a tax system where the rich aren't favored.
Yeah, I don't think.
Back in the 50s, the tax rate was up in the range of 90% income tax, was up in the range.
That's amazing.
And, that's what caused
Which is
a
the
building
medical
boom.
doctor.
There were companies that would build buildings and then go away. Just the building sat there empty. It was a tax write-off.
So, oh. So that system didn't work either.
No.
No, I don't know. I don't
But
know
there
if
should
it's a
be
working system.
a middle ground to take care of that.
There needs to be some sort of organizations to help out. But, and government is one obvious one, churches are another obvious one. But it's gonna have to be a competition.
Well, and the more we get involved with our local shelters, they are funded in some ways from the government. There was a lady at the Peace Colloquy talking about how KCK, she was involved in KCK. They even allowed her organization to hire a pastor, which I thought was excited, not to ask a question about it, but I thought that was interesting that the government then was paying for a Christian pastor to come in and help them. So it's like things get a little fuzzy, but on the other hand, what they were saying to us is that it takes all of these groups, they were pleading with the churches to work with them instead of just trying to help our poor on our own, and I really got that message from them. It takes more than one group, if you're looking at charities and churches and government together.
I'm a little curious about our own church's oblation.
Yeah.
Mary, do you have any information about what that does for people now? I know it doesn't have much money.
Yeah, I wonder about that.
Not had anybody need any oblation help for the members.
Well, I know that Bernice was trying to get oblation and they helped her for a while, but then they ran out of money.
Well, no,
Well,
there's
There's
just
a limit.
per person.
there is a
Yeah.
limit, and she had reached the limit.
Yeah.
It's a lifetime limit, right, Mary?
Pardon?
It's a lifetime limit. That's not an annual limit.
Yeah.
They did make one exception I think it was when they had bed bugs or something in their apartment, and so they did allow them to apply for ablation to help with pain to get the bed bugs removed. But other than that, every time that I know of, she was denied.
Well, and even churches, it's just like what Coral was talking about earlier, even churches, we don't, I mean, obviously our church has been struggling with resources, but I do think it's difficult if people aren't going to help themselves and we're not teaching them. Do we just continue to give them the money or pay their rent for them and do all of that? I mean, we struggle with that. I mean, yes, we feel like we're not very good Christians if we're not giving, but on the other hand, it's really, we have to take care of ourselves. That's where I think government programs and shelters, I mean, there really are a lot of, when we were helping Bernice, I studied in Kansas City, there's a group that gives diapers, but all you have to do is apply for diapers, and there's another group that will, give medicine to your kids. I mean, so there really are organizations if we look for them, if we, work with them, kind of thing. That's what I would like to do is it's not Mission Road helping people. It's too hard for us.
Well, I think that's part of, everybody lives in their own bubble. So we all don't live an integrated life. We don't. And so we see it just day to day. We don't see what needs are, and we also don't understand what the solutions possibly are.
Yeah.
So what does help really look like?
Right.
We don't even know that.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, as you all know, I don't have a car right now, so I ride the bus a lot. I see life in the raw every day.
Yeah.
Okay, I see life, and I see people waiting on the bus
Yeah.
that are absolutely insane, and probably because they start, after years of taking dope, that's really going to affect the brain, okay, after a while. And some people who should be in Western Missouri mental health are not there. I don't know why, but some should be there. I'm talking about people who ride the bus. People are waiting on the bus, especially in front of KU Med Center. And if you remember the prayer that I gave last Sunday, when you get to be my age, the days just fly by in the weeks. But anyway, it was a week ago. I think it was either a Thursday or Friday. I was at 39th and Broadway at Walgreens Pharmacy getting my eye drops. Anyway, I had the green light. I was crossing from the east going west to catch the 39th Street bus to go west. I had the green light. One car came from the east to turn and go north. One car came from the west going east to turn north. Two cars almost hit me. I had the green light. I had to walk. I had the walk sign. And two cars, thank God they didn't hit me. And that's why I referred to in prayer that I've had a lot of narrow escapes without death or injury. For some reason, God has intervened. I don't know why, but I'm glad he did and continues to do so. So I'm very grateful to the Lord for that. But a lot of you don't see life in the raw. Maybe you did when you were younger. I don't know, but I see life in the raw every day. And
I see it
okay,
downstairs.
Johnson County has enough police officers, but KCMO does not. Kansas City police are ignoring. They're either ignoring or they're just overwhelmed or they don't have enough officers. You would not believe the red light runners, especially at 39th and Southwest Traffic Way.
Yeah.
Just blatantly, instead of when they see the yellow, they speed up, they don't slow down.
Yeah, we call them amber.
And they
ramblers.
go through the red light and no one's stopping them.
Lawyers call them amber ramblers.
Amber.
I think Karen has a comment.
To your point, Jim, I had a house guest a week ago that was administrator for VA hospitals. He had different hospitals across the nation. And he said that there are millions of dollars that the VA has available for housing for veterans that are homeless on the streets, but they have to get themselves clean or commit to getting off drugs
Mhm.
to be housed in these, what do they call them? Mini houses.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
tiny houses. Tiny houses. And that it's available, and this money is going to waste because people choose not.
It's
to
an
go through the
addiction.
process.
It's not a choice sometimes when you have an addiction.
Well,
I mean,
but
but
they,
once again, where's the programs to get them out of their addiction?
but they're not willing to even sign up for the program.
Military's kind of a different issue, altogether.
Yeah.
But I just heard this statistic that just kind of blew me away that, and I can't remember if it was just over 50% or just under 50% of military families have to get SNAP benefits or food assistance to survive and feed their families.
Yeah.
That's our military. So I don't know.
Well, and the shelters have the same rule that you have to be clean
Yeah.
to be in there, you know, and so I do think that the drug epidemic is obviously part of the problem, you know, and part of the homeless issue, but it's not the whole homeless issue. That's what they were very clear with us at the peace colloquy. It's way too broad to say that it's only the people who are on drugs or mentally ill that are homeless. It's all across the board. It's all across the society. You know, he said, look around your own church. You know, it's everywhere.
There's working poor that,
There's working
Yeah.
poor.
you know, or people that are
Yeah.
homeless, but they still have a full-time job, but because they can't afford
Yeah.
rent, they can't afford bills, they can't,
Yeah, they have to choose between paying for the car payment or paying for the house or paying for food for their kids. Or,
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they're
There
horrible
was a
choices.
time when the mentally challenged, lived in group homes, there were group homes for them,
They still are.
but not like it was, we were younger, therefore that program was slashed. And that's why there were so many.
It was slashed in Johnson County, because
Oh, yeah.
pretty much everywhere,
Johnson
You're
County is
back
better than
everywhere.
most counties.
pretty much everywhere, but it was a lot to do with the abuse that was happening in the group homes.
Yeah.
And that kind of started the defunding of them because people were seeing the conditions in them
Yeah.
and saying, why are we paying to mistreat people? So they defunded a lot
Yeah.
of them
And
because
when
of
was
that.
this? Can you name a year for that?
I cannot yet name a year,
Say
but
it
as I was growing up, it was, I used to work with people that lived in large group homes. And they said their life was miserable living in large group homes when they moved to either Larch or RIM, the two different organizations I worked with. And it was small individual houses. Their life became so much better. They weren't being abused. They weren't being forgotten. The larger group homes were problematic because they didn't have the help to keep people safe. So people were sitting in diapers that were dirty for days. People weren't taking showers, weren't getting their medicine that they needed because they didn't have, even if they had the space to house these people, they didn't have the staff to help them. And so it just the government finally said, well, if you're not, we can't, then we're not having the ability to enforce it, so we're just gonna defund it.
I'm gonna say it was in the 1980s.
Yeah.
How many people were in these
Comes
group
to church
homes?
with
A
me.
lot,
Yeah,
more than that should have been. Just like the prisons, they're overrun because they just keep putting people in.
There's nothing, yeah,
Yeah.
talk about Susan a little bit.
You know, yeah, I do this camp that I met Susan and she has lived in a group home ever since I've known her.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, in Johnson County, the group homes that she's been in, and it's been probably 4 different ones in the 10 years that I've hung out with her. It's been excellent.
Yeah, they
There's Johnson County Day Service that they go during the day. Susan's had a job the whole time that they facilitate. I mean, I've been very impressed with what Johnson County
Yeah.
has provided for her, and there's 8 people in a house. She would go to Robin on Iron Horse Golf Club.
That's one of the things that changed about the system is that now they are houses instead of entire school worth of beds.
In other words, it's a group, but not nearly as large a group.
Yes.
On a $0 monthly
That's what
premium.
thing is that they saw the conditions in the large group homes and said, this is not worth paying for. They just needed them.
Okay.
But yeah, it went from large group homes to smaller group homes that were more individual based and do support them and give them the need they have. Back in the day when they had large group homes, it was just like putting them in an asylum and forgetting about it.
Yeah.
Well, here's what I suggest for 2025. You know, I think Jim has personal experiences and they're very difficult, Jim. I know that standing there at the bus, even me driving by the bus stops, those are probably the poorest people in our community. You know, I see them downtown, we see them on the highways, you know, and then also think of sorry, Karen, I had a brain. Susan? Yeah, Susan's experience, which is positive. And so I think it's our job as people here at our church to kind of figure out not what the statistics say, not what used to happen, not what's happening in the news, but what's happening in personal lives. You know, because that's where we can get involved. That's why we're so involved with the Center of Hope. You know, and you and Robin are going to put out Operation Breakthrough.
Yeah.
So there's some very good systems.
Yeah, I was gonna make the point, we have to be careful, we don't judge the poor by the worst case scenarios.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good going on, a lot of organizations that are doing very good. I go back to a read a quote from earlier in this chapter. It says Deuteronomy 15:11 reads that since there will never cease to be the poor on earth, it is the duty of the people of God to open their hands to the poor. I got to go on to the next page, and needy neighbor. And there are a couple of ways that we can do it easily. You know, Operation Breakthrough as well as Center for Hope both have food pantry. Both handle. I'm pretty sure both handle have stores in the sense that people can go and get clothing and all. If we really want to do anything at all, we ought to be increasing our contributions to those organizations. But I also like to throw in the issue of poverty is not just food.
Right.
It's also healthcare.
Yeah.
And there are, I don't remember the exact number, but there are going to be over 1 million, it may be multiple billions of Kansans, you want to keep it close to home, that because of the one big bill are going to lose their Medicaid coverage.
Yeah.
And the same, yeah, you know about SNAP right now. So there are ways we need to be active in contributing what we can.
So here's what she ends with the chapter with, and then we'll chapter 4 next week. Hopefully so. So looking at Deuteronomy, and Jesus quotes Deuteronomy, so Jesus shows another way. Ending poverty is possible through the practice of covenant economics. That was the term I wanted to share with you guys. So Matthew refers to people's failure to follow God's law and commandments. That is the forgiveness of debts, the release of slaves, provisions for those in need without further benefiting only the wealthy. That's what she calls the covenant economics. And instructs us on how to establish a reign of prosperity and dignity for all. So that's where we can institute some kind of Jubilee and Sabbath in some form in our world. So, maybe get to that ideal. I like how Ryan talks is like, well, maybe we'll always have an inequality, but it would be nice if we were figuring out how to help the poorest of the poor. Yeah, just give people basic needs. Food and shelter, figuring out for the veterans. I'd love to figure out for the veterans how to get them into those tiny homes. The money is there. Yeah.
I also,
It was shocking.
I know.
I also think that, we need to play around with the idea that charity can be a form of worship. It's one of many forms of worshiping God. Now,
Definitely
service to
God.
service to
Yeah.
service to God,
Yeah.
and keeping that theological principle in mind.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what Jesus was saying, So, all right. I'm looking.
The government is involved because these people all get, social security disability.
That's it.
So they don't necessarily wait till they're 67 to get social security.
Yeah, that's true.
That SSDI and whenever.
Yeah. Okay, so next week, Dennis, it's you, chapter 4. And he always goes prepared. Actually, it was a really short chapter too, so
Yeah, some of them long.
You can read it.
I was kind of, as you guys are talking.
I like that. No PowerPoint, and we still got through the
We
class.
still chatted. We can always talk. This is what we do.